Oh, good morning, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us this morning. I was just saying that I'm not the most comfortable public speaker. I just hope, to give you a little bit of an insight and just tell you a little bit about myself. And please feel free to ask questions. And I would like to start this morning by lighting a candle and to pause and reflect for a little moment. Right. Yes. So I've actually, when my husband asked me last night, have you prepared yourself? And I said, no, not really. Usually it's quite a natural, process. And I've got a few things set up here in the background, which I would like to show you later on. And just tell you a little bit about myself. So I'm a registered nurse, and 3 years ago, I've become an end-of-life doula. And before I did the training with beautiful Helen Callahan from Preparing the Way, I was also working as a hospice volunteer down south in the community. And I have to admit, I've never sort of saw myself working in the end of life space. It was just that it wasn't really on my radar, but we had personal death in our family, and it wasn't, let's say, a good death. It was quite a difficult death and situation. It was my husband's father, my father-in-law. We never had the best relationship. So I was quite emotionally detached from it. And I was just supporting my husband and my sister-in-law and my mother-in-law through the entire process. And it was very interesting for me to see, even though it's a medical family, my husband is a doctor, but I noticed that his family in particular, they were all struggling, talking about dying. And that was quite interesting to see. And during that process, because being a mom of 4 boys, I always thought, preparing the children for such a big event, I was usually preparing them for arrival of a new sibling. And when I was pregnant, we were reading books to them about having another baby in our family and a birth. And so I did the same thing during the process while my father-in-law passed away. We talked about, there are beautiful children's books out there, and we talked about it, and I got this amazing special role play set, which I'm going to show you in a little while. And I think children, through play and through honest, open, chats, they were actually quite comfortable. And when the time came and my father-in-law died, the kids weren't in shock. They were prepared and they were calm about it. So that really made a big difference. So I started working on the neonatal intensive care unit 13 years ago, on and off, just because of having had the 4 children and going to maternity leave. And I absolutely love working in the special care nursery. down here in Hobart, we've got 16 beds in our special care nursery, and then we've got, well, we just moved into the new Royal Hobart Hospital block, the K block, and it's an incredible ward with, you know, amazing technology. And we do have, oh gosh, I'm not sure, I think was it 10 intensive care beds, could be a bit more. And one day when I sat down with a few friends, and when sort of the idea was born that I would offer the infant loss support service, I was just a bit surprised in a way that quite a few of really close friends had a very common experience with their stillborn babies. I've also had my own personal losses, and we all agreed there could be things much, you know, done much better, much more just individual for the family in need. And we all agreed that being in a hospital space or a clinical space wasn't the right thing for us. And we really thought, we all, as I said, had a very similar experience. And that was basically the aha moment for me, when I thought, what if we could give parents the option of bringing their baby home? And I phrase it that we should welcome a baby, no matter if stillborn or not. We should welcome the baby into the family, and when the family is ready, then we say our goodbyes to the baby. But so I started going, talking to, you know, maternity wards, and I went down here to Hobart Private and Calvary maternity wards. They were really supportive, and they really welcomed the idea. And it was a bit difficult getting the foot in the door at the Royal, the public hospital, which was kind of interesting because that's the place where I work. But they've got so many policies in place, and so I was a bit surprised. But again, the team, the pediatrician, and the social worker, they said they will make sure that the families do get the information. And I absolutely understand that it's not for everyone. Like, so what I basically do is that I offer the families to bring their baby home and spend up to 5 days, and usually by day 3, the parents can see that the baby, usually by day 3 they know that they are ready, and they can let go, and it's just a much more gentler process than having the baby separated from you when you're in a hospital. Thank goodness hospitals now provide cuddle cots, but there are times when still the baby had to go down to the morgue because cuddle cots weren't available. And it is always a painful reminder for the mom when the midwife knocks on the door and picks up the baby. Excuse me, I just have to have a sip of my tea. Yeah, so I just thought it's so beneficial for the families to have their home environment, instead of being in a hospital, being confronted with the busyness and also when they also can hear other newborn babies' cries, or can see people in the hallway with their big bellies, and it's quite confronting. And I personally also thought when I had to go through my own losses, and after 6 weeks you have to go to the obstetrician for another check and scan. And I know how I felt sitting there between all those pregnant women in the waiting room, and it was a really uncomfortable. I was just so sad and so traumatized, and then sitting between those women, and I obviously was so happy that everything was fine for them. But it was just my own personal experience that I couldn't really bear the thought sitting there in the waiting room with all these expecting moms, and my belly was empty. So yeah, so I feel really privileged doing this, and I know that it is a really helpful, beautiful, more gentle goodbye. And I know that a lot of people think that it's a bit heavy, but because a lot of people, when they hear stillborn or newborn deaths, it is, you know, it is obviously so tragic. But what's giving me the strength is that I know that I can make a difference for these families in need, and that's why I love my role. And if you would like to a little bit of numbers, as I said, please ask questions if you've got any questions, but I thought I'd give you a little bit of an idea. Here in Tasmania, just here alone in Tasmania, we've got 40 stillborn babies and 20 newborn deaths a year. And sadly, in Australia-wide, we do have 6 stillborn babies a day. These are the shocking numbers. And also, in the past 2 decades, nothing really has changed about that rate, unfortunately, and only little research has been done. But I think starting last year, I just read that the Stillbirth Foundation, they've got some funding for more research, which is absolutely wonderful. Also, 40% of the cases, it's unknown why the baby has died. And yeah, these are the sad numbers. And if you like, I can show you a Cuddle Card. A Cuddle Card is a device, a cooling mat, you could say, to keep the baby cool, so that it doesn't deteriorate that quickly. And if you don't, yeah, if you're not feeling comfortable having a look at the Cuddle Card, just, you know, press on your screen and you can just hear my voice, but you don't have it on the screen because, yeah, it's maybe not for everyone. But if you're happy, I can show you now the Cuddle Card. I just, excuse me, I have to move the camera now because I've got it all set up here. So that's a Cuddle Card. I haven't set up the bassinet because I thought I would show you the little device. So what I usually do is I've got this baby wrap here, and that's the cooling mat here where the cold water gets, how can you say, rinse through, or yeah. And the only model I found, excuse me, I've got 4 boys, but they still love dolls. So my 5-year-old has got this little doll, and I just thought I could show you what I do. So we place the baby in here. Place the baby in here, and then we wrap the baby. It's a bit tricky with one hand, but the beautiful thing is, I'll show you in a minute. The beautiful thing is that mom can still nurse her baby. So you just attach this, which I'm not going to do right now, but mom can still nurse her baby while it's getting nice and that it stays cool. And mom can wrap blankets around that she doesn't, feel the coolness. And it's so important to have the baby close to mom. And also the beautiful thing is that it's a transportable one, so you can put the device underneath the pram as well and take the baby for a walk if you wanted to. And yeah, so that is my Cuddle Card. I was talking about this beautiful role play set I've got for families, because most families have got siblings, and death is quite abstract for children anyway, a big concept. And this role play is just so beautiful. I got it from the Netherlands. That was very lucky. And it's just absolutely divine, because it's got this little box, this little coffin. Excuse me. The children here can set up, it's got a little candle. It's got all these figures. And what I like about it, that the faces are actually neutral. So you could also, there's a dice with different feelings, happy and sad, scared. Yeah, so it's got a dice, and yeah, just really beautiful things for decoration, and to explain about that some people like to leave letters, let's say, put something beautiful, maybe a picture or photos in the casket. And it's just, it's a lovely little role play set for children when we're talking about funerals and stuff and what's happening there. Because I really think it's all a matter of preparation, and children are actually quite, they're actually quite comfortable with it if you prepare them. Yeah, so up here I've got a range of really amazing books. This book is called You Could Have Been by Annie M. And it's absolutely beautiful for children, for siblings again, and for moms. That book here from Elizabeth Heinemann. She is an academic from the US, and she shares her own personal story. The book is called Ghost Belly, and she's sharing her personal story about her stillborn baby boy. And that is one of my absolute favorite books. And we've got this book here, The Unspeakable Loss by Nisha Zenworth, which is also a very good resource. And another book called Empty Cradle, Broken Heart. Yeah. And unfortunately, I made another order. The book is called The Heart Space Journal, and it is an absolute wonderful journal for parents. Sorry, I have to set up my phone here again. It's an absolute wonderful journal for parents, where they can write their story and their thoughts. So it's called Heart Space Book Journal. And if you just Google that, and it's a very precious gift if you know someone with an infant loss. It's a very wonderful present you could give to the family. I think the book is around $50. yeah, so that's basically enough. I think enough said. I've got one other. Yesterday, I stumbled across the story about, I'm not sure if you can remember, but a couple of years ago, there was this orca, and she lost her baby, and she was carrying her baby around the ocean, and yesterday it just came up in my news feed, and I remembered back then that a very special person has written a blog, and I was just in absolute awe when I read her blog, and I would like to finish my talk with her beautiful words. So this lady, Angela Miller, she has got a website called A Bed for My Heart, and she is writing the most beautiful blogs, and she also had she lost, I think, a baby boy, and it's a very beautiful page for parents. They can exchange their their experiences, and so I would like to read this because I think it's just so beautiful. It's called I Will Carry You. A mother's love, a mother's grief. Teleka is every grieving mom. If only grieving parents had this kind of support for help bear the weight of grief. Compassionate grief support like this should be the norm. Instead, it's few and far between. This story has been moving millions around the world. Tell across every grieving mom, day 10. The mama orca is still carrying her baby. She literally cannot and will not let go of her precious baby. The female orcas are now taking turns helping the mama orca carry her dead baby orca across the sea. So the grieving mama orca can eat and rest. If only every parent grieving the loss of a child had this kind of support, space, honor, reverence. The whales are surrounded and uplifting this mom, helping to carry the weight of her grief. This is grief. This is love. This is true compassionate grief support. This is how it should be done. Sadly, this is not the kind of grief support the broken-hearted usually receive from our grief illiterate culture. Yeah, so I was very touched by her words, and yeah, so my dear friend and colleague Lee Connell, we are hosting the Tassie Death Cafe down south, and we gather once a month, and tonight is our monthly Zoom meeting. So at the moment, because of COVID, we decided to continue the Zoom, the online Death Cafe meetings, and it's a really wonderful space, and anyone is welcome, and we don't have a agenda as such. That's the concept, the idea of a Death Cafe. Whatever people would like to bring to the space, it's a really wonderful thing, and we've been doing this now for a year. And Lee and myself, we also started offering workshops, which is quite exciting. We started last year with my son's school, the Friends School, and we had quite a few deaths in our school community. And I could tell that a lot of parents were uncomfortable talking to their children about death, because one of the teacher's sons killed himself, and we also had a stillborn baby in our class community. And I could sense that a lot of people were quite wobbly and didn't know what to say and weren't confident. And so Lee and I, we sat together and we decided to run workshops for parents, how to talk to children about death and dying, just to give them confidence and resources, and that was really well received. And yeah, so unfortunately, due to COVID and lockdown, we couldn't continue the workshops this year, and we are also very excited because the nurse unit manager from Calvary reached out from the Gibson ward, and she was interested that we gather monthly with the patients and the palliative care team and family members to run a death cafe on Gibson ward, which is absolutely wonderful that they acknowledge the need and that it's welcomed. I think that's very exciting.
I'm just talking about what you found, what you feel are the fundamental barriers that we humans, especially we human adults, experience in communicating, most particularly about death. But to me, a lot of this is about, as you've already said, you talked about the parents struggling to communicate with their children. Children will communicate. What is it that we struggle with? What do you think are the core issues for adults as they face life?
Yes, I suppose. Thanks. That's a very good question, Francis. And I think it's got a lot to do with your own experience in a way, about your own how comfortable you are around death, or if you ever had a close death in your family. And it was interesting because the parents, when we were holding those workshops, they shared really personal things, and it was just that they thought that children should be sheltered from all of that, and that should be just that they thought that they should protect the children, that they shouldn't feel the sadness. And it was interesting because I remember even when I was a little girl and my mom, my hamster died, and she was absolutely horrified, telling me, giving me the news. And so she went into the first pet store and bought another Humsy looking hamster, and I could recognize that it wasn't my hamster. So it was a little bit funny that she really freaked out basically, and she didn't know how to give me the news because she wanted to protect me, that I wasn't feeling sad. It's about, I suppose, a lot of people fear death, and I think the beautiful thing, what I can see working as an end-of-life doula and with adult clients or clients with a terminal illness, that the whole thing starts to shift when they find their acceptance and when they kind of surrender. It sounds maybe a bit funny, but it really shifts things a lot for the entire family, and makes it, everything is more calmer, I think. And when people really reflect about their own mortality, and I have to say, I feel very comfortable around death, and I mean, obviously, if it's, I think every day is such a precious gift. And just recently in our circle of friends, I'm a fairly young person in my mid-40s, but we had quite unexpected death with younger people. And that's an eye-opener again, that we think we are, invincible. But it could happen any moment. And so Was that helpful, Francis? Or it's just, I think, as I said, when I see my children and when I see my firstborn, who was absolutely terrified of death, and he had difficulties, and it's usually by the age of 7 when it really dawns on them and it sinks in and they realize, oh, we are not immortal, oh my goodness. And he couldn't sleep well yet. He was struggling, that he thought he couldn't breathe properly, and he was absolutely had nightmares and all of that, night terrors. And when I then in comparison see my 8-year-old, because during my end of life doula training and talking about death so much and so comfortable in our own family, he's got the complete opposite experience. He was the one who went to my teacher and he written a beautiful card for his teacher who lost his son. And he said, Leon's teacher said that he was absolutely amazed that Leon was one of the very few kids who acknowledged his grief, and it was so lovely that Leon gave him a hug and that he wouldn't avoid him or was scared of confronting him. And that was just a really beautiful thing for me as a parent to witness, that he is just so empathetic. And yeah, it's just, and children are, I would say, really, really amazing. And I think children also relate to their parents. So when you are grounded and calm, yeah, the children will basically mirror that. Yeah.